Hi there, I'm Holly McDonald with the Costa Mesa pod, where we discuss all things that make the lifestyle, businesses, and activities around our area such a great place to live. Today I have repeat offender Sarah Wilson with me. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, so nice to be here again.
Yes. Well, Sarah has the Everything's Messy podcast, and she has so much information that she's bringing to the forefront to bring awareness about this month. And maybe you'll notice we're both wearing red, and I'll let her share a little bit about why.
Yes.
So go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah. So Friday, February 6th is National Wear Red Day, and it is to spark, hopefully, some awareness around heart disease, and especially for women, as we were talking. It's just mind-blowing, some of the statistics out there. And as myself, who suffered a heart attack 6 days before I turned 42 years old with 0 symptoms, that is something that I take very seriously, and I think we need to get more women talking about it, for sure.
You're definitely on a mission to make sure people know, because you had no idea, that you were going to have one. And that's a very young age, and the only thing that you had that could have possibly contributed was the diabetes.
Right, type 1 diabetes, which a lot of people go, oh, well, that won't affect me. I don't have type 1. I don't have to worry about it, which is not correct. We're talking about younger women being dismissed for any type of anxiety, thyroid problems, autoimmune disease that doesn't necessarily have to do with diabetes. It could be lupus, could be RA, could be all of these other things that are out there that up the risk for heart disease by a lot.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what people should know if they have any of these conditions might be a trigger for heart disease.
It's not necessarily going to be a trigger. The thing with heart disease is it's a slow build, right? So, and we're really looking at high cortisol, insulin resistance, and women predominantly living in that fight or flight mode, which we do tend to do that, and just chronic stress, just never being able to, bring our levels down naturally, learn how to breathe, just very basic things that need to become a pattern in our lifestyle, on top of eating well and exercising and those types of things. But as we were talking about before, with insulin resistance, you can be thin, you can be eating clean, you can be working out, and you can still have a form of insulin resistance. And it's really hard to figure out if you do or not. There is like a litmus test that you can look online to see if you have some of the symptoms. Yeah. But it's hard because a lot of doctors won't even, test for that. And that's a big precursor to know about heart disease.
So if you're somebody that wanted to be tested, what sort of tests should you be asking your doctor for, and will they do them?
So it depends on your doctor, obviously. I would say if you are having really, if you're struggling with anxiety and it's new for you, it's not something that maybe you do struggle with, although I say that with women, it probably is. A lot of us are struggling with it. Yeah. But just all I could tell from my own experience was I was a little more tired than normal with 3 kids. I didn't think anything differently. Yeah. And when I was driving myself to the hospital, I really thought I was having a panic attack. So just think of those kinds of symptoms. But sure enough, it was a full-blown heart attack when I got into the emergency room. And I had no idea. I didn't have jaw pain, neck pain, back pain, arm pain, chest pain. I was breathing it was a little weird, I guess, but not anything noticeable. Yeah. So these are things that I really believe we need to be shedding some light on. And, when you hear about 1 in 2 women are dying from heart disease in America, and it's 1 in 4 for men, and this is nothing, we obviously need awareness for breast cancer, but I feel like their PR team is a little bit better getting the word out and getting awareness than the heart disease side, and we really need to be talking about that.
Okay, so let's back up. You said 1 in 2 women
will die from heart disease. Yes. So CDC states that per year in the United States, 300,000 plus women are dying from heart disease, comparatively to 43,000 who are dying of breast cancer. Okay. That's a big difference.
That's a giant difference. And also, you're saying that men are only 1 in 4.
1 in 4. Which is still incredibly high.
Still a high number.
Yes.
But women are definitely the ones that are more likely. So we're not talking about it enough specifically to women.
Right, right. And we need to not only be talking about it, but finding these sort of streamlined tests that we can be doing like they do have with breast cancer. You know, we were talking about the mammogram and how that's just standard. You know, it's recognized everywhere. It's practically, you know, you can get them wherever you're looking for them. They don't have these things for heart disease, and we should be. We should be looking for this. And again, you know, 300,000 compared to 43,000 is that's a huge number.
Well, and February is a month where it is Heart Disease Awareness Month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, which does make sense. February is a month where we see a lot of hearts everywhere.
Right.
So we really have to take that into consideration. But are there things that, you know how there are all those like watches and rings and things that you can be wearing to monitor yourself? Are there things you can be tracking on there that maybe would be a good indicator?
Blood pressure, absolutely. And we always want to keep our blood pressure low, right? Just for our own sanity, our own stress and everything. But it's the patterns. So if you are, you know, monitoring it some sort of electronically, chart it down. Talk to it with your doctor. Make sure that they're keeping a track on what that looks like over a long period of time. Okay. Not just when we have a Canon event and we get our heart rate up and, you know, all these things are happening around us. No, just chart that consistently if you can. Yeah. That's going to give you a better picture of than just, you know, 1 or 2 days of what it might look like. The other thing, too, they do have these calculator risks online that you can plug in your age and weight and all these kinds of things. The problem is most of the calculator algorithm is skewed towards the men's data. It's not skewed towards the women's data.
Do you know of any that have more of a female emphasis?
I don't.
Ooh, okay.
Doesn't
so
mean
any
it doesn't
app
exist.
developers?
Right. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm not aware of it. But those actually, you know, they bring either people peace of mind or they go, oh, I probably need to go in and get checked. And so that would be something very simple and easy to do. Yeah. But again, we have to make sure we're going off the women's data versus the men's data.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point to make because I think most people wouldn't even think that there is a difference. So to know that you really do have to be specific.
Well, and again, the biggest difference being most women have no symptoms. Yeah. We're not feeling the same way. You know, the common thing you see on TV where they're clutching their left arm or they're having trouble breathing or some just pass right out. Yeah. That's not our case. And so that's equally or doubly scary because we don't know what to look for.
So let's go back to your story for a minute because I know that you like to shine a light on it so that people can have awareness because you literally had no symptoms. You didn't even think you were having a heart attack and yet you physically were. So explain it again. Let's just rehash the story. Sure. And she's on a previous podcast, so I'll link to that too. But go ahead and rehash the story. Yeah. What happened?
So we were living in Colorado at the time, and I had gone out to shovel the driveway of snow, which is not my favorite thing. This is why I'm back in California. I just have to put that out there. Yes. But I came in, and I was a little bit more tired. I have 3 children. Didn't really think anything of it. I couldn't tell you that I had chest pain. It was nothing like that. And my oldest said, you know, thinking it was type 1 diabetes related, hey, maybe you should go get checked out. I would feel better if you did that so I don't have to watch my brother and sister spiral because you're passed out on the bathroom floor or something like that. And so... Did
you say anything? Did you say, like, I'm feeling a little bit weird? I
said I was feeling tired.
Which would seem normal after shoveling a driveway.
I guess what kind of set her off was I typically didn't say I was tired. And so the fact that I was, like... I'm really tired. This was just a trigger, and she's very protective of me, so it was very sweet. And out of the mouths of babes, if she hadn't said it, I probably wouldn't have gone. Yeah. Right? This is a Sunday, so again, women, we don't ask for help. We don't
tough it out.
We don't. Right. So she was 16 at the time. Said she would watch the younger 2. So I literally, and there's no doctors open. There's no right. So I drive myself to the emergency room. Yeah. And the whole way there, I'm freaking myself out. My internal narrative is, you're having a panic attack. They're going to be like, why are you wasting our time? What are you doing here? finally talked myself to walk into the emergency room. It wasn't busy. Got back right away to triage. They hook you up to the little monitor.
Yeah.
And if you're familiar with what an EKG should look like, it's usually rolling hills, up above, very nice. Mine was inverted. It was a W. And the color of his face sort of all drained out. He disappeared, came back with like 9 people, and they basically told me, you're in the middle of having a massive heart attack. Massive heart attack. I was rushed to this cath lab. 2 stents were placed in. It was surreal. It was unbelievably surreal.
And now, not to like restate the obvious, but had you not gone,
I don't know.
Yeah.
It would have probably not worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I mean, we're so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
And I'm sure your kids are glad you're here,
Yes,
and your husband.
yes.
But that is a wild story. And so no wonder you want to prevent that from happening to anybody else.
And let me add, this is a really big piece. It was not due to high blood pressure, and it was not due to high cholesterol. So these are 2 tickers that they check to see if you have heart disease. I had neither of those. I was a type 1 diabetic who, years previous, being rebellious, I had unregulated blood sugar for longer time than I should have.
Yeah.
And that added to building up the plaque. But the only other thing they could say was copious amounts of stress. So uncontrolled blood sugar and copious amounts of stress. Not high blood pressure, not high cholesterol.
Did they check the plaque? Or
yeah, that's how I found out I needed a stent.
Okay.
So yes, I believe it was like 96% blockage, and I needed to have a stent. Yeah.
Okay. And so one thing we talked about before was that a lot of women have a higher buildup of plaque because the vessels are thinner.
They're thinner, and the lining is thinner.
Okay.
And that's really, really important. And I'm not sure that we can't overcome that doing other preventative measures, but it is something to take into consideration because we aren't built like men.
Yeah.
We don't have the, bigger vessels and things like that.
Yeah.
So, and again, we're constantly living in fight or flight mode. That cortisol dump, the buildup, and then the insulin resistance, these are all things that, regardless of being a type 1 diabetic, people are suffering and having these symptoms, nothing to do with it. Now, in that category, I add to that risk.
Yeah.
Also having thyroid issues. I also had complicated pregnancies. Check. But they can't come out and say only type 1 diabetes are having heart disease.
Sure.
It is across the board. And when you look at what the numbers are, you can't ignore it.
No, I mean the numbers do say a lot.
They do.
I know in the past I've had my arteries checked for plaque, and it's just a simple ultrasound. It's
Sure.
Now, mind you, insurance doesn't always cover very much, if any. So it's not as easy, I guess, to access as a mammogram or some of the other preventative measures that you can take for other issues.
Right.
I wish we could just like fix the system though, so that it could be easy, because I was in there for 5 minutes and they did an ultrasound. It was no big deal. It was shorter than a mammogram.
Right. And I feel like this is something where we should, not only statewide but nationally be pushing for something to be put into the women's wellness category for a standard, whether they say it's every 2 years, whatever it's going to be. We need to have more of those tests, and they need to start younger. So
yes,
I brought some statistics.
Hit me with some stats.
So I had talked about 45% of women aged 20 and up are living with some sort of cardiovascular disease.
So nearly half of women aged 20 and up have some form.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So and they
don't know it.
They don't know it.
Probably like what? Maybe like an eighth of the people know it.
So 60 million women in the United States have some sort of heart disease. 60 million.
Okay, so basically a 1 in 2 chance if you're over age 20.
Yeah. So, and that's according to the CDC. I want to make sure that I cite these correctly. And then there's also, I have cites in here from Johns Hopkins as well.
Okay.
But so we talked about the 300,000 versus the 43,000. This is the other statistic that I found mind-blowing. Less than 50% of women recognize heart disease as their leading health threat. When you speak to your friends or your mom or whatever, their first thing they're thinking about is breast cancer or some sort of ovarian, some sort of cancer.
Yeah.
50% of women or less are not thinking that this is their leading health threat, and it is. Because when you're talking about heart disease, it's killing more women than all cancers combined.
Yeah, see, I would have been in the category that wouldn't have thought of that as the number one threat.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's That's scary. And then we've got, per John Hopkins, heart attacks are increasing among women ages 35 to 54. Which I fell into that range at 42, now 46.
35 and up, though. That's so young.
Right.
A lot of people are still babies at 35.
Well, and that's why we need to talk about, why are women getting missed?
Yeah.
Why don't we have a standard litmus test to check all of these things, to ask those questions, to prompt the doctor to say, let's just do an EKG really quick, or let's just see what's going on. Those are, minimally, the EKG is not invasive at all. They just hook it up, right? And so those are things we should be screaming for with these statistics. And it bothers me that because this is data from the CDC and the American Heart Association, where's the must be a money thing, right?
Yeah. Well, and I wonder too, there are certain things that you just, you can't change.
Right.
Like if you are born with type 1 diabetes,
right,
or you have an autoimmune issue, you're already managing that. But things like stress, those are things that people can definitely work on to at least eliminate that or reduce that factor.
Right.
Contributing.
Well,
right?
and we're talking all kinds of stress. We're talking mom guilt. We're talking caretaker syndrome. If you're taking care of elderly parents or an elderly loved one, these are things that are adding to, even if we think we've got it all under control, most of us mask very well.
Yeah.
But that's not doing us any favors. And as women, I feel like we have such a great community. We need to be supporting and lifting each other up and saying, hey, how about I come let you take a break, but then also go get your heart checked, right?
Oh my gosh. That's a really good point.
Affecting all of us. It really is. And then so I had one. Let's see. I talked about that.
I know you had mentioned too that it's starting younger.
Yeah, so younger women are completely dismissed as far as in the doctor scan. Again, if you have a great doctor, I'm not speaking to those people. These are, the people that have a busy practice. They're just trying to get through their patients and things like that. But we need to do something that wakes them up. We need to do something that says, hey, look at me. Let's get my ticker checked. Because, again, it's compound. It's not something that immediately happens. It's over time that this is building up. And even if we're just talking about finding better stress, combative ways to combat stress, that's huge. And why? Maybe when we add the layer of why are we needing this, instead of, I feel guilty, or, I don't really need to do this, or, dinner needs to be made, let's ask ourselves why. And so then we can say, because I don't want to have heart disease, or because I'm trying to bring my risk factor down. Those are things that we need to be talking about.
As somebody who has dealt with a lot of anxiety, I can say that whenever I go in for my yearly physical, they'll have you fill out a form. And it's just do you feel anxious? Do you feel depressed? It's pretty
standard.
And I've always just considered it, they're just deciding whether or not maybe we should talk about medication or whatnot.
Mental health check, for sure.
Yeah, but it's never been brought to my attention that this could potentially be a factor that is a gateway to additional troubles like heart disease and what, why that's so important. And it is important. If that could, because not only for yourself, but for your family too.
Right.
For you have 3 kids, and I'm sure we won't go there. I don't want to add more stress to your life, but you wouldn't want to leave them behind.
Of course not.
And all of that.
Not.
So same thing for any of the other nearly 50% of women over the age of 20.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so staggering. Again, the awareness about breast cancer, bar none, and we need that as well.
Yeah.
We absolutely need that. But heart disease way surpasses that.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about it.
Why do you think we're not talking about it?
I don't know.
Do you think it's money?
I'm sure that has something to do with it. Like I said, I think the PR department on the other side has great representation, and we don't. This National Wear Red Day, I think, is going to help. It shows that you're wearing it, spot it. If you see somebody wearing red, have a conversation, talk about it. Are they wearing, are they affected? Do they know somebody that's affected? Because again, 300,000 women a year?
Yeah.
That doesn't
and
go
another
on.
40-something plus men. That's a lot of people.
Let's not, let's not just shove that under the rug. This is important.
Well, and I like that you said that because, of course, as a podcaster, we like to talk to people about their stories.
Yes.
But that is a really good topic to bring up if people especially are wearing red on Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that, and I think, we talked about the stress and if you have these chronic conditions, but I also think there's maybe a stigma of shame attached to it or embarrassment attached to it. And I would really love for that to just be put to bed. A lot of these things, especially if you're dealing with autoimmune or chronic conditions, these are not things that we had any choice over.
Yeah.
These are things that were just dealt that straw. And there should be no shame in it leading to heart disease. We should just be looking for the solution, acceptance for it, and awareness. I mean, that's really the important part of it.
It seems to me like when you talk about people having shame, it's almost like they've written a story for themselves and they have the shame about that story and they're afraid other people are going to, pass judgment on them. But you're saying, like, let's rewrite that story.
Well, and because I'm speaking from experience, there was a lot of shame and guilt that I felt, like, how come I couldn't have prevented this? What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
But then going down those rabbit holes and finding that there was already things stacked against me that I didn't have any control over. And, after my rebellious years, I did eat fairly well. I had to control my blood sugar, so I wasn't. I've received the question of, "Oh, you must have had a really bad diet," or, "How could you let this happen?" Things like that, and it's like these are the wrong questions to be asking.
Yeah,
the damage is there, big or small. We want to get it checked, reverse it, and start paying attention to those things. And I think just supportive and being a community for it, especially because it's affecting so many women, the judgment, the shame, the embarrassment, that we just need to put it to bed.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody who might feel powerless because they do have, the cards stacked against them in some ways?
So first, give me a hug. Let's hug it out. Let's hug it out. Second, we're going to sit down and just take it one step at a time. Where can we start? We're not going to add all of these, big things for you to pivot in your life because it's going to become overwhelming and you're going to get paralyzed and stop.
Yeah.
So it's just start small, start with what you can see. If it's stress, if it's cortisol, start trying to fix those things. Talk to your doctor. Let him know what you're doing. Monitor your blood pressure if you can, things like that. Again, with mine, it was not high blood pressure and it wasn't high cholesterol.
Yeah.
So that's really, it's not a good marker.
Yeah. What are the things specifically that, and I know you're not a doctor, but what should people typically look for and ask their doctor to look at?
Yeah, so if you're suffering from an autoimmune or a chronic condition right there, or even complications in pregnancies, even if it's been years, these are already putting you in the category for some risk. I would, and again, I'm not a doctor, this is not medical advice, but for me, I would definitely have the conversation. I'd be like, okay, what's the first step that we can take? Is it an EKG? Is it a sonogram like you had talked about? What's the next tool? And start from there. Just start small and see where it goes. And hopefully you're not in that category, but at least it will make you aware of it, as you go on.
Yeah, and we are fortunate that in Southern California, we are in a mecca of, there are so many great physicians and doctors' offices and different kinds and different ways to be treated. So, I mean, you might have to look around a little bit. You might not have your right fit today with your doctor.
But advocate for yourself.
I love that.
Absolutely advocate for yourself. There's been many experiences that I've had where the doctor has gaslit me and said this isn't happening, and I know I'm not alone in that category. Push back a little bit.
Yeah.
Just ask, call other people, talk to other women who might have gotten some form of, movement forward.
Yeah.
Because we do need to streamline it for sure. Like you had talked about breast cancer, we know.
Yeah.
Check.
Yeah.
We need to be doing the same thing for heart disease.
Yeah. No, definitely. So with your experience, and obviously, you're spreading the word so well. You are definitely, you're on the mountaintops, you're spreading the word. But have you been part of any support groups or anything? Do you know of any that you could recommend for people that are battling?
Definitely reach out to the American Heart Association. There are, I'm not sure, I'm sure there is support groups. I haven't joined any, but there's a lot of online communities on Facebook that you can talk about this. Women in general who have started communities that have experienced this and gone through it. And I think that's the great thing about women is we do talk about it. We do. And I think especially in recent generations, we're not hiding our medical stuff anymore. We're not, whether it's mental health, breast cancer, whatever it is, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
This needs to be one more thing we're talking about for sure.
Yeah, I think definitely for people that maybe do have a sense of shame about it, or just fear, either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people with fear. I mean, honestly, hearing the statistics is pretty scary.
Right.
But that is all the more reason now that we have the data, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Right? So having that, it gives you the chance to go advocate for yourself and ask for additional testing to be done so you can monitor and just see where you're at.
Yeah. Well, and we should be self-advocating no matter what the issue is.
Yeah.
Autoimmune, chronic conditions, there's not a one-size-fits-all for our wellness.
Yeah.
And since I've started this wellness journey, I have learned very quickly that there isn't an answer. The same answer for you is not the answer for me.
Yeah.
And we just have to, I don't want to say care enough, but we have to be, engaged enough to be asking these questions, to get down the information. And then if that means we have to move in a different direction, then we do, and we keep going. But I would hate for things to be so complicated and so confusing that we're just not doing anything.
I'm just curious. So, I mean, you've had diabetes for pretty much your whole life? Or
I was diagnosed at 15.
Okay, so a good period of your life. Did you, and I'm sure it was such a drag when you found out.
It was.
Yeah. And you noted you were rebellious. Totally makes sense.
I was.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
I was not the poster child. Well, and this is in the 90s. There were no support groups like there are now. They have parent support groups and then kids who are diagnosed, and they have all of this awareness about, because type 1 is very different than type 2. Type 1 is a autoimmune disease. Type 2 is a metabolic disease. And so they're very different, but they all seem to be lumped in and treated the same way, and it's not.
Did you ever think, did it ever cross your mind when you were 15 and you found out about this, that this would ultimately become something that you were so passionate about?
No, gosh, no. No, not at all. But I think, and to my point of, there's a lot of support and things for kids who are diagnosed, and maybe parental support, which is also important because they're taking care of the kids.
Yeah.
But then after you turn 18, it kind of like, there's not a lot out there. You have to go find it and find the engagement. And with type 1, there should be an extra part of, hey, I was told my whole life, watch your kidneys. Watch your kidneys, I mean, we've all seen Steel Magnolias, right?
Yeah,
it was all kidney problems. So that terrified me. I mean, I was I was literally scared of kidney problems when heart is so much higher.
Well, you really can't live without that. So, well, I just want to thank you again for being here and resharing your story and providing some additional information. I know you brought some notes. Is there anything else that you want to share?
I just wanted to make sure that I had the sources correctly and the information, because I don't want to, get anybody in trouble for saying the wrong thing, and to emphasize how big of a difference it is and how important it is.
Yeah, no, it is really important to see, because like you said, a lot of people don't necessarily factor it as being a huge deal for women. So it is kind of swept under the rug.
Yeah.
At least not that I've seen. And since we do live in an area too where we do have so much access to healthcare, for our whole community, it is good to know that this is something to really put on your radar.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing all of that.
Absolutely.
And February is the month of love and hearts and all of those things.
And let's keep them beating. And really, if I could just reach one person who just says, I think that might be me.
Yeah.
And it helps, and they don't have to go to the extreme that I went through. That's all I could ask for.
Yeah. No, you're amazing. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yes,
I'll have
we
to link
had so
to
much fun.
that episode too, because you talk about everything being messy, because it's true. We're all just a beautiful mess.
Yes, exactly. Beautiful mess. Yes.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Holly. This has been great.